Greetings, everyone, and welcome. July the 7th, 2025. And yes, Sergey Lavrov is nuts. Now, let me make this very clear. He may be nuts, but he's not stupid, and he is very good at the diplomatic world. He knows how to push buttons. He is aware of what is happening. And today, at his BRICS press conference speech or rant, he pushed all of the right buttons for Russia, making statements about the United Nations in its current format is dead. NATO is destroyed. It's on the edge of mutiny. Trump is their master, and everything you know about Ukraine is not real. And yes, I have video evidence in English voiced over for you guys so that you can hear it for yourselves. Thank you guys for taking one moment to subscribe to the channel. If you have not, hit that like button, and I look forward to your comments on this one because it's worthy of comments. Here we go. We'll start with number one. And his statement was about NATO. NATO is on the edge of mutiny as it serves its master. And of course, the master reference that you will hear will be a direct reference to Donald J. Trump, who just weeks ago was called Daddy by Rutte, and they can spin it any way they want. Well, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant. Regardless of what you say, that is what was heard. And Russia and Sergey Lavrov will use it to the nth degree. Here we go. The NATO expansion, which has benefited no one, including, in my opinion, the members of the North Atlantic Alliance themselves. Disagreements are deepening there, and a kind of quiet mutiny is brewing, as more and more countries want to be guided by not some ideologized directives imposed by the master, but by their own national interest. So there you have it. Just a very concise 20-30-second statement. NATO is falling apart. NATO is on the edge of mutiny. NATO nations want to take care of their own interest. The NATO thing is dead. Member nations are not happy, and all they are doing is serving their master. And that master, of course, in his reference here is Donald Trump. The word mutiny, it's just pushing the buttons day by day, minute by minute. And I remind you, he was speaking to the BRICS nations and to the press and to the world. You are now hearing it. There's some powerful nations in that BRICS. And I'm not here to talk about, can BRICS make it? Is it sound? Doesn't matter. It's connected. Russia, China, Iran, Brazil. We're talking some large players on the global scene and populations that are huge. You know, India and China, just those two. You guys realize what we're dealing with here. So that was the message on NATO. It's failing, it's mutinous, and they're getting tired of serving their master, Donald Trump. Now, let's go to number two here. And this one, guys, is very bothersome. He goes on about the BRICS making a joint statement about the root causes in Ukraine needing to be eliminated. And the issues are much deeper than we thought. And they must be erased all the way back to 2014. Here you go. Looking forward to your comments on this one.
The resolution reflects many countries' position regarding Ukraine. Everybody spoke from very weighted positions, realizing the root causes of the crisis, which are threats to the security of the Russian Federation, which had been created for a long time, for decades. The expansion of NATO to the east, with the goal of taking in Ukraine. We need to cancel all decisions passed by the Kiev regime after 2014, aimed at legally exterminating all things Russian, including the state language, the culture and literature. And recently they've been trying to abolish the traditional Ukrainian Orthodox Church.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Today, just a couple of hours ago, Sergey Lavrov speaking about Russia, we're being attacked. NATO is coming east. They want to gobble up all of Ukraine. It is a threat to our culture, to our language, to everything that is Russian. And just now, they're attacking the Orthodox Church and everything by that illegitimate Kiev regime must be erased all the way back to 2014. None of it's real. That's what he just said. And I remind you, just over the last 4 or 5 days, we've even had representatives out of the state of Florida and other places talking points about the destruction, the extermination of the Orthodox Church in Ukraine. Dear friends, if you are new to the channel, please hear me. I've worked in Ukraine for 28 years, the entire nation. I've been on the front lines of this war for 14 months and will be heading back in a few weeks to Ukraine. I promise you, there is no destruction of the Orthodox Church. There is no persecution of the Orthodox Church. The only things that have happened is FSB agents who have been hiding under the umbrella of the Russian Orthodox Church have been arrested as enemies of the state. And that is proper. It's a war. They were spies trying to destroy Ukraine from within as agents of Russia. In fact, I would bet you all the money in the world, because I know it's a fact, that the Orthodox churches and the churches, even in other branches of Christianity that you have seen destroyed in Ukraine, have not been done by Ukraine. It is Russia that is bombing drones, artillery, missiles against churches indiscriminately. Why? So they can talk those talking points right there, push it that Ukraine is doing it, and then weak-minded politicians around the world will gobble it up as fact. It is not fact, it is a lie. But today he was spewing that, and the BRICS nations had an agreement on it, he said. Now let's move to the third one. And this one, okay, Mr. Lavrov, I kind of almost agree with you on this one because I'm not too hip on the United Nations as well, but for a different reason than you. Here he is talking about the United Nations.
A reform of the United Nations was discussed particularly. Well, obviously, the Security Council reform was most relevant. And there is a need confirmed by the joint positions to address the lack of representation for Asian and African and Latin American countries at the Security Council. And the West has long held domination that was not deserved in terms of the real balance of forces in the international arena. But for the first time, there was very detailed discussion of a reform of the United Nations Secretariat. And there is a direct criticism regarding the prevalence of Western countries in the management positions at the Secretariat.
So there you have it. We don't like how the United Nations is set up. It needs to be changed because there's not enough representation of other nations of the world on the Security Council. Well, here is what I would say to that. And this may be interesting. So 2 things that I would look forward to reading your comments on. Number 1 would be all the trash that was spewed about Ukraine here that are absolute lies. And number 2, do you guys think there should be a United Nations or not? For me, personally, I do not believe today in 2025 that the United Nations is viable. I have been on the front lines there in Ukraine so much and seen the United Nations vehicles there at distance doing nothing, parked in parking lots, nothing but a show. Additionally, it is the United Nations that has allowed Russia to sit on the Security Council, but not just sit there, but be the president of it at their various rotational times during the war in Ukraine. The invading nation, the barbaristic nation, the terroristic regime of Vladimir Putin, a war criminal, sitting as the head of the UN Security Council. Guess what? let's just delete it. How about that? And find a better way to work together as nations of the world in a modern world. That's where we're at. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard it correctly. Lavrov is absolutely nuts. Thank you for sharing. This is the truth of what's coming out of the Kremlin today through Sergei Lavrov at the big BRICS meeting. Be blessed.